Hi. Keeping in view the fact, the irrefutable fact that your CIs are right around the corner, literally. Business Concepts 1, your P1, it is scheduled for Tuesday, the 5th of May. So I thought I should just give you a quick overview of the curriculum, especially with reference to P1. Something that I believe not only those students who are appearing in their CIs should find useful, but this should make a valuable contribution towards the preparation of those of you who are preparing for the final exams, the year 1 students, the AS students. So the main purpose would be to learn about the methodology that we must all adhere to in order to do well or exceptionally well in the forthcoming examination. Okay, quickly, first of all, the format. As we all know, paper 1, we have 1 hour 15 minutes to attempt both the sections, section A and B. And it carries 40 marks, equally divided between the two sections. First section first. As we all know, section A comprises of all the short questions. We have the 2 and the 3 markers, and the last one, it carries 5 marks. So it's going to be define, explain, define, explain, define, explain. Question 1, 2, and 3, A, B, A, B, A, B. And the 4th question, it says analyze. So first of all, we have to keep this in mind, that it has to be our utmost effort to score full marks in section A. We have mathematical marking here, and if you attempt it in a technically correct way, there's no reason that you miss out on even a single mark as far as the first section is concerned. You see, if you do well in section A, it will pull your grades upwards, and even if your performance in the second section, it is not up to the mark in the sense, it is not an above average performance, there's still a chance that you could manage an A if you have scored full marks on 19 out of 20 in section A. So it makes a huge difference. So we can refer to so many different, for instance, the latest, February, March 26, paper 1. So the first question, it says, question 1, part A, define the term public sector. So remember, when you define a term, it is strongly recommended that in addition to the definition, there has to be something like an example or possibly an advantage or a formula that should be added to the definition. There has to be something in addition to the definition, just to make sure that you come up with a perfect answer. And the examiner is impressed to an extent that he is forced, he's compelled to give you full marks in that particular answer. For instance, you see, so it says define the term public sector. So public sector refers to all the state-owned corporations, that are primarily responsible for providing essential facilities to the masses at subsidized rates. Good definition. And it is always advisable to mention that profit is the secondary motive. Never write that a public sector organization is not interested in making profit. They are, but it's just that it is their secondary motive. The primary motive is to serve the people. And no harm in quoting an example from your own country. Otherwise, there's so many organizations. Like Pakistan Railways, for instance, the transport sector, power generation, so on and so forth. State-owned corporations, they're providing the masses with these subsidized facilities. So that should be good enough. A few additional seconds, but it will guarantee that you score full marks. Then, we have these 3 markers. The first word is explain. So, in the same question paper, for instance, if they want you to explain one stage in the product life cycle, there is a question in February, March 26, the 3 marker. So always define the key term first. Define product life cycle, which refers to various stages through which a product passes through during its lifetime. Name those stages: introduction, growth, maturity, decline, and you can pick one and just explain it briefly. So if it's the introductory stage, you can safely write that this stage, the introductory stage, it is the riskiest stage in the product life cycle, since they have to face numerous teething problems at this stage. You can even quote an example. Or if you choose to go with the maturity stage, you can always write this is the stage where the sales begin to level off, and extension strategies must be adopted to prolong the stage or extend the stage. Simple as that. Just a simple addition to the answer, to the definition, should do the trick. Then, the last question, the 5 marker in section A, when it says analyze, we have to keep in mind that the keywords in analyze are why and how. Give a reason or an advantage, that's your answer to why, and how is the methodology, right? So if it is regarding the status of an employee and how it affects his motivation level, or any other question, refer to any other 5 marker in any other paper, define the key term, and then add a couple of points. But do not forget, the answer should revolve around why and how. So if it's motivation, why should we motivate workers? Improving productivity, enhancing the image. Or when you have to come up with the answer to how, explain the methodology, financial, non-financial rewards. In this particular question, it says status, so obviously, the status of the employee will have a major impact on his motivation level. It will have some monetary advantages also. The prestige factor. There's so many choices, but the point is that it has to revolve around why and how. The definition and, of course, a couple of factors added to it. So try to wrap this up in about 30 minutes, and I'm absolutely confident you guys can manage 20 out of 20 in section A in 30 minutes. So coming to section B, this happens to be the only section where there's some choice, because you already know that in business there's hardly any choice. No choice in paper 2, no choice in paper 3, no choice in paper 4, no choice in section A and P1, but yes, there is some choice in section B. You have to select one from the given 2. So 5A and B are analysis and evaluation based questions respectively. So is the case with 6A and B, the 8 markers and the 12 markers. And you should be left with approximately 40 to 45 minutes for section B. It is time consuming. So take a couple of minutes in the beginning, compare the 2 questions, and just select the one in which you feel there's more content available, relevant content available. All right? And try to avoid the disastrous mistake or a blunder of deciding to attempt one particular question, and when you're halfway through, suddenly you think that this was a bad choice and you decide to switch to the other question. We don't have that luxury here. So many times I've observed when I'm grading the papers, the students, they do this. They start attempting question 5, and then suddenly they realize they could have done better in question number 6, and then switch to it. Changing horses during the race, absolutely not advisable. So a couple of minutes in the beginning, that is recommended. Weigh out your options, and then select one and give it your best shot. Try to attempt it wholeheartedly. So you need to remember this. Okay, so again, the analysis-based questions, as we just discussed, the same rule applies. Why and how? But since it's an essay type question, roughly the length of the answer is, in average writing font, is around 1 A4 side for the 8 marker. So no harm in coming out with a brief introductory paragraph in the beginning in which you can define the key term, right? For instance, I believe in this particular paper, February, March 26, 6A was regarding franchising, right? The drawbacks to a franchisee, of being a franchisee, right? So it's advisable to have an introductory paragraph. You see, the rule is in the introductory paragraph, you should give the background, identify the problem, and define the key term. But this rule is more applicable to all the case study based papers because there is some background and you can refer to the passage. So paper 2, 3, and 4, try to remember this. In P1, you can simply define the key term, quote an example or two, and then focus on the main body, which comprises of 2 major paragraphs in the analysis based question. So if there are 2 drawbacks or 2 advantages, just discuss those in detail, but after having defined the key term first. So if it's regarding franchising, you can define the word franchising. If it says franchisee, you can define the term franchisee preferably. One who buys the license, who has purchased the rights to manage a business on behalf of the franchisor, and then you can discuss the drawbacks. For instance, if the franchisee is innovative by nature and he wishes to experiment, then this might not be a good idea because as a franchisee, you're always answerable to the franchisor and his consent is needed before each and every major or sometimes minor decisions also, right? But remember why and how. Why and how are the key terms as far as you have to give reasons. Why is there has to be some logic to what you're discussing, and how is describing the methodology to accomplish something. Just try to keep this in mind. So 2 paragraphs, 2 different points, why and how. Finish this in about 15 minutes. Conclude it. You see, conclusion does not have any separate weightage as far as the analysis-based questions are concerned, but I would always suggest that it adds a touch of quality to the answer. Just a couple of lines in the end, separately, just like a separate introductory paragraph. It improves your presentation, right? This, like I said, there's no separate weightage for it, but it certainly improves the presentation of the answer. You've discussed the drawbacks, whether it is the fact that the franchisee has to pay royalty or, is answerable to the franchisor. But in the end, you can always mention something, maybe a drawback or a factor or a feature or an advantage in some cases, which you did not discuss previously. Just mention that. In addition to the above mentioned factors, this or this could also be considered. So that's advisable also. Okay, coming to the evaluation, the evaluation based question. I mean, I think it was 5B in this particular paper, or you can refer to any other paper also, because we're just trying to understand the methodology. So the 12 marker, it always starts the word evaluate, and the keywords in evaluate are obviously why, how, and however. We've already understood why and how. However means highlighting the other side, how a particular move or a strategy or decision could backfire, the drawbacks, the risk factor. However, you should motivate the workers because it will improve productivity, enhance the image. How can you motivate the workers? Through financial, non-financial rewards. However, it might prove to be costly or time consuming. Just an example, hypothetically speaking. Right? So if it is regarding the internal source of finance, for instance, the introductory paragraph defined the key term, internal source of finance. Sources that exist within the organization that are used for raising funds. And remember, if it specifies a certain kind of business, like in this paper, it says the pharmaceutical business, then application is of the essence. More so in the case study based papers 2, 3, and 4, but even in P1, if it says for a pharmaceutical business, for a restaurant, for a manufacturer of electronics, it has to be molded accordingly. You have to keep this in mind. If it's a furniture manufacturer, instead of writing that he should buy wood he should buy raw material in bulk to enjoy economies of scale, you should write he should purchase wood in bulk to show relevance and application. So if it's a pharmaceutical business, like I said, then pharmacy related examples or points should be discussed. You have to mold the answer accordingly. If it's a restaurant, then it has to be with reference to food items, right? Application is crucial. So evaluation means the other side has to be discussed. You will discuss the internal source of finance. You will quote examples, at least two major points, internal sources such as retained profit, profit after tax from the previous year which is re-injected into the business. Yes, there's no cost of borrowing involved, but it will be a smaller amount and there are chances that your own funds will be tied up. The drawback. So comparative analysis is needed, the drawback, and you can even compare this to the external source of finance. Had this been a bank loan, then obviously they won't face any cash flow problems, so on and so forth. So read the question carefully. Do they want you to discuss the advantages or the drawbacks? A bit of comparison will be needed. And most importantly, in the evaluation-based questions, there has to be some concluding remarks in the end, and it does have some weightage. Your verdict, your conclusion, your findings, your recommendations, that does matter a lot, and this is an absolute requirement as far as the evaluation based questions are concerned. Right, you give your verdict, this is your domain, you can agree, you can disagree, there could be a neutral comment, but there has to be a recommendation in the end to wind it up. So try to make sure you have roughly 40 minutes for attempting part A and part B in section B, the essay type questions. And if you manage it well, despite the fact that the threshold is high, and you have to score 35 or 36 marks, whatever the threshold is, it is very much manageable. Every year we see students scoring 38, 39 out of 40 in B1, and it's very much manageable and possible. So I think this should be it. Try to keep all these pointers in mind, and inshallah I expect all of you to do exceptionally well in your P1 and the other papers also. We'll have a discussion before the other papers as well. Alright guys, all the best. Allah Hafiz.